Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I have joining us Katie, who is another Outschool teacher, and she also has her own Outschool organization. So today, we are going to chat all about Katie's Outschool journey and how she was able to scale her online teaching business. So first, let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself. Let us know how and when you started teaching online.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Katie Geddes, and I am an online music studio owner and a teacher coach. And I actually started teaching online not on Outschool. I started with VIPKID back in, I think it was maybe October of 2018. I feel like that's how a lot of teachers all got their start teaching online in general. But my original reasoning for starting to teach online was that I had moved abroad. So I used to teach in the classroom as an elementary music teacher, but I decided to quit so that I could travel abroad, and I taught ESL with VIPKID so that I could supplement my income when I was living there. And yeah, that was kind of the start of my online teaching journey. Once I came back from traveling, then that is actually when I found Outschool, and I was so excited because I had missed teaching music, and so I just dove, headfirst right into teaching online with Outschool instead. And that was in the summer of 2020 that I found Outschool. So, but it's been a few years now, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Now, when you first started teaching on Outschool, what were some key strategies you tried to implement in order to find success?
Yes. So, first of all, I definitely treated my Outschool business as a business from day one. And I think that that really sets you up for success on the platform in general. I think a lot of teachers kind of approach Outschool as this is going to be a side gig or a part-time thing, but for me from day one I was like, I want this to be my full-time job. I'm going to put everything I have into this. And yeah, that's what I did 100% from the start. So that way I say it was mostly honestly just a mindset thing and a motivation thing. But then second of all, I niched down from the start, which I think is, a pretty common thought between all of us on Outschool, but niching down from the beginning just because, as someone who's just getting started, you want to be seen as an expert in a topic, right? So, if I niche down to specific parts of music, because I'm a music teacher, I think that that helped me a lot because, there were only so many guitar teachers on the platform from the start. And so, really finding that specific niche helped me gain enrollments from the beginning, I think.
Yeah.
Second of all, I did market research. I think a lot of people forget to check out what's already out there. Just taking a look at that platform and seeing what's already available and what is doing well, what's not doing well. Taking a look at classes that might be similar to yours, and of course, never copying a teacher, but seeing how can you add value to your own offering of that course, to help it stand out and be set apart compared to all of the other ones that are offered. Also, in the beginning, I created tons of classes, right from the get-go. I scheduled all of them, and I just kind of saw what stuck. I saw what got the most likes, what got the most enrollments. And then once I saw that, I started to build programs based on those classes. So usually those were my most successful one-time classes. I saw, what was doing the best, and then I would build multi-day or ongoing classes based off of those as well. So
Cool. That's good. So it's so I know this isn't in your notes, but when you started, you already knew that you wanted to be music, focus on music.
yeah, so I have a degree in music education, and I taught music in the classroom, and it's always been my biggest passion. I never actually wanted to leave my music ed job. I wanted to go back to teaching music again once I came back from traveling. But when I came back, the pandemic happened. So I was like, I don't want to go back to the classroom right now. So that is why I kind of went the online route instead. So as soon as I found out about Outschool and I realized that I could teach music online, I was like, oh my gosh, this is for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, and it seems like you used a really good strategy that you picked your niche, but you still had to experiment. So it's not like all the classes you created, because you said you created a lot of classes, all those classes you created right from the start may or may not have been successful, but you
Right.
said you picked your most successful and then you build off of that, right?
Definitely. And
Which is
kind of on that note too, it's a good way to figure out what you like to teach too, to just experiment
Mhm.
and create a bunch of different ones because I created, so for example, in college and as a musician, my principal instrument, so like my main instrument is voice. Like I'm mostly a singer. And so I had a bunch of voice classes and they did well, but I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it, So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to focus on guitar instead. Even if, so even if those classes were doing well, it's like you figure out what you want to focus on too, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
important too. So,
Yes, that's so, so true. Because I know for me, I was a kindergarten teacher and I thought I would want to do everything kindergarten related, but I kind of learned, ooh, I really like focusing on like the phonics, the reading. That aspect is what's more enjoyable for me to teach online because it
yes.
is a little different teaching online versus teaching in person.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
mhm.
Totally
Awesome,
agree.
awesome tips. Okay, so great. When did you decide? Because as I mentioned in the beginning, you do have an Outschool organization, which is amazing. When did you decide that you actually wanted to scale your teaching business?
So I think that it was April or May of this year, of 2021, that I had been feeling overwhelmed for a while and I had the demand with the classes, but I was already teaching, as many hours as I wanted to. And I also didn't want to raise my prices any higher than they already were. And so I think that I held back for a long time because I was scared to like mess up a good thing and to bring another teacher on and to let go of that control in your business is a really scary idea. But yeah, just finally deciding that if I did want to scale and I did want to continue to grow, like, and not stay stuck, I had to make those changes. And I feel like becoming an organization was the way to go with that. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you felt that you were ready because your schedule was basically fully booked and there
Yeah.
was no other way for you to try to make more income or teach less unless you made that next step, right?
Right. Like it can't, I feel like with most teachers I know who have become organizations, it usually came to a point where your classes are booked, you don't want to teach any more hours, but you want to continue to grow and you want to, continue to increase your income, but you don't want to overexert yourself. So it comes to a point where it's like the only other answer is bringing on another teacher. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So, what tips then do you have for those that have the goal to scale their Outschool business maybe in the future?
Yeah, for sure. So, as an independent teacher, when you're just getting started, trying to scale, maybe trying to get to a full time income on Outschool,
Mhm.
I think that there are a few things that you need to focus on the most. The first one, I think, is just focusing on what I would call your offer suite. So, basically, the classes that you offer on the platform. And, starting to just really focus on those starting to really focus on the handful of classes that are doing the best and that you enjoy
Mhm.
teaching the most, and really starting to add value to those classes. So instead of having, a range of 10, 15 different classes that you offer, really just focusing on maybe 3 to 5 different classes. So focusing on those classes that are doing the best and really building lasting programs off of them. So
Mhm.
focusing on your re-enrollment instead of just finding new enrollments every single time. So for example, most of my income came from just 2 different classes, like private lessons and then a
Wow.
beginning guitar class. And from there, you can have kids continue on because the ongoing classes, sorry, because my ongoing private lessons, those kids continue on, indefinitely. And with the kids in beginning guitar, then I continue to funnel them into my intermediate guitar programs and my upper intermediate guitar programs and guitar club. And from there, it's no longer about finding new kids. It's just about serving the kids that you have in your community and in your classrooms already. So on that note, the second thing that I would say after focusing on Offer Suite and just narrowing it down to a couple of key classes is building a funnel off of those classes. So basically just creating a path for your students to follow where, once they join that first step of your funnel, that first class where you bring that kiddo in, that you serve them, you show them what a great teacher you are, and then they want to continue on with you. So then you give them a way to continue with you. You give them more classes to follow to continue to grow and to continue to learn with you so that, you never let those kiddos go that you love to work with. And then the third thing I would say is focusing on your mindset, which I know sounds kind of woo-woo, but it's always important to really think about, am I treating this like a real business? Do I think of this as a side gig or just a side hustle? or is this the real deal thing for me? And just kind of asking yourself, like, do I have limiting beliefs surrounding Outschool? So are there things that I believe about Outschool that are holding me back? Like, do I think that the platform's too saturated, or do I think that, it's not possible for me to make this a full-time gig? Because if you believe those things, then of course they're going to hold you back from success on the platform too. So, yeah.
So true. That's so true with any online company I feel like you work for. Because when I started with VIPKID, I wanted to make that my full-time income because
Yeah.
I had left the classroom and I just like went full force. And then I was able to because I had that mindset. And then it was something similar with Outschool. So any platform, I feel like any teacher, entrepreneur kind of style thing, you have to have the mindset that this is going to be a business and you need to treat it like a business. Otherwise, like you mentioned as well, it's just going to be more of a side gig, which is fine if that's your goal, but you do want to make sure your goals are in line to what you actually want to accomplish. So
Yeah, definitely.
awesome tips. Chat briefly about how you started your organization. I know we chatted a little bit about this already, but why did you feel that that was the best move for your business?
So I felt like it was the best move for me because, as I was saying before, like there was a higher demand than I could account for. But also for me, I didn't want to raise my prices because a lot of people, that would be the answer, right? If the demand is higher than, what you can offer, then your time is worth more money, right? Like you can increase your prices, but I already felt like mine were at the higher side of Outschool. And I don't mean that in like, I don't feel like that's a mindset block. I just wanted to make it more accessible for kids. I sat down one day and I was like, what is your ultimate goal? Like, what is your why? And it was to bring, music to more kids and to make music more accessible to kids. So that was something that was really important to me. And I also wanted to continue to grow personally in my own streams of income. Like I wanted to, start on Teachers Pay Teachers, or I wanted to build up my coaching offers and stuff like that. But I didn't have the time, I was already teaching so many hours and I felt burnt out. And if I wanted to continue to grow, those things, then something was going to have to change, So I feel like that was the next step, like bringing someone else on so that they could lighten the load so that, not only could I continue to serve these kids, but then I could also, focus on my other goals too and my other passions for myself. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So you didn't want to put all your eggs in one basket, as we hear so many people say. You had your Outschool organization, but you did want to have time to focus on your coaching offer or to focus on TPT. So you would have other streams of income as well. So that's a really good tip in itself to not only, yes, you want to focus and build that Outschool business, but sometimes, especially if you want that to be your full-time job, that it may be in your best interest not to focus only on that if you're relying fully on that income. So that's a really, really good tip. Were there any hurdles that you had to overcome in order to start your Outschool organization?
it's funny because I look back and the first time that I had really thought about becoming an organization was like October of 2020. And so it took me like six or so months just to build up the courage to really go about, making the change and taking the steps towards becoming one. Like for me, mindset was really one of the biggest things for me because, it sounds really prideful, but in my head, it's like, I believed that nobody could teach my classes as well as I could, and that nobody could serve these students as well as, in the same way that I was serving. And so I was scared that would hurt my business to bring someone else in because they wouldn't be as good of a teacher as me, which is such a ridiculous thing to believe, So I think once I got over that and I realized, like, how can you really serve these kids? Like, what do these kids really need? It's like realizing that my business was bigger than myself, it was more important than me as a teacher. And also realizing that my business could be bigger than this platform too, like not just,
For sure.
Seeing it as an Outschool business, but seeing it as a music studio that is on Outschool, but also can expand off of Outschool too. So I think just realizing those two things, that my business was bigger than myself and that it was bigger than this platform, it was so important for me going forward because it kind of clarified that it was the right decision for me. And then, of course, once I started the process, there were some hurdles as well. I think that the biggest one is just the fact that to apply to become an organization on Outschool, you have to have a legal entity, or you have to be a legal
Mhm.
entity. And that scared me at first because I was like, ooh, I'm making like legal moves. I want to do the right
Yeah.
thing. So I had I decided that I really wanted to talk to a lawyer, so I had to find a lawyer, figure out how to make a call with
Wow.
them, sit down and
Mhm.
chat with them about, what is the best way to go about this for how I see my business going in the future, and having those kind of scary talks. Like, I know that it seems kind of silly maybe to some people that it might be scary to sit down and talk to a lawyer, but for me it was like it was making it really real, and so I was really scared to do that. But at the end of the day, it's what I had to do to, go about the
Mhm.
process of making this happen. So talking to a lawyer, becoming a legal entity, applying to get an LLC. Yeah, I would say that those were the hardest things getting started.
Yeah. Yeah, and the first one you mentioned, actually, I've heard a lot of like entrepreneurs and teachers say it as well, that whether it's on Outschool or some other sort of business, when it starts to grow, it's sometimes hard to hand off some of the tasks that you've always done to
Yeah.
someone else because you feel like they are not going to do it as well as you. But like you said, you just have to kind of leap and do it and
Yeah.
find someone that you feel is qualified and that you trust, and then that's when your business can grow because you have that extra time and you're
Yeah.
able to focus on other things. Like you mentioned, maybe your coaching offer or something else that you want to work on that only you can start. So that's great, great information for everyone listening.
Yeah, it's like just letting go of the control.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely easier said though, I think, than done for many, many people.
Agreed.
So it sounds like you've overcome those hurdles, which is awesome. What are some tips maybe you have for those that want to start their own Outschool organization? They're ready, they have a pretty booked schedule, and they're teaching as many hours as they possibly can. What steps or what tips could you give them?
So I would say just to take everything day by day, take it step by step. It can be a really overwhelming process because, you have to figure out how to make a job listing and conduct an interview and make a hire and do contracts, and you have to figure out how to, explain how to teach your classes and hand all of that over to someone. And it can seem overwhelming, but just remembering that, you can do things little by little. Like, you can just take on one teacher at a time. And, what I did was I brought on that first teacher and I really communicated to them like, hey, I'm still figuring this out. I don't have all the answers here. And, this process may not be perfect and it may be a little bit messy. But as long as I communicated that to them and they were aware that, we were going to figure it out together, I think that that was the best approach. Not pretending that you have it all figured out, because you're
Right.
not going to have it all figured out. And so
Mhm.
just thinking of that first teacher kind of as your partner and, asking feedback from them, how are you feeling? What do you need from me? So that you can kind of use them as a guinea pig and,
Mhm.
figure out, the process of hiring someone on and what they do need to know so that you can replicate that when you hire on other teachers in the future too. So.
Nice. That's a good tip. And kind of just a random question. The first person that you hired on, was it someone you personally knew, or did you actually go through the entire interview process?
I'm really lucky because it's someone that I knew personally who had kind of the same training as me. Like, they went to the same
Mm.
university and got the same degree and had the same mentoring teacher and taught in the same county, the same
Oh,
subject
wow.
matter as me. So it was someone that I knew had a very similar background and it had learned from
Mhm.
a very similar, type of teacher. So we probably
Mhm.
had similar, teaching styles. And it was a good friend of mine too. So I'm
Oh,
lucky enough to have had someone like that. But, I've helped other teachers who have become organizations through the same thing, who have hired on someone that wasn't a friend. And, people are very understanding. So they
mhm.
go about it in the same way. Like, she communicated the same thing of, I'm looking for someone to go through this with me. And it worked out really well for them too. So,
So now we know everyone may not have the desire to start their own organization, but it can also be a good idea to work for an organization. When you personally are looking for more teachers to add to your team, what do you usually look for?
yeah, definitely. So, first of all, the first place that I go if I am looking for someone is there's a Facebook group that people can join. It's called the Outschool Teacher and Organization Connection Unofficial. And so you can
Mhm.
join that, and there are teachers posting all of the time about, hiring on new teachers and what they're looking for. And they all have a different process of, how they're hiring someone. So just following, along with what they need from you when you're applying. Another tip that I have for someone that is interested in applying is having just your own teacher profile as well on the Outschool platform, because that way when you are going through the application process and they're considering hiring you on, they can look at your career profile and they can see your education, your experience, what kind of classes you like to teach, your teaching style, how you present yourself on the platform, all of that stuff. So that is, really helpful to them, to give them a lot of information about, what kind of teacher you would be for their organization too. So.
So I know that you mentioned before, the first teacher you hired on, you had known personally. Have you hired on any other teachers past that point, and how were you able to kind of do that?
Yeah, definitely. So now I've hired on 3 different teachers. The first two are friends of mine, but the third person was someone, all of my other teachers are on Eastern time. And so I was looking for someone who was on Pacific time so that we could kind of
Mm,
offer a more range of class times.
right.
And that was actually a really hard process for me because since my organization is so niched, I, had to go about finding someone in a different way, because when I posted on the Facebook group, I did not get a single application because I guess nobody felt like that they were qualified to teach
Hmm.
guitar. So I actually ended up having to go to Indeed, and I posted a job listing there and went through the application process, and hosted it through Indeed instead. So yeah.
Nice. That's really interesting. Okay. Well, you have shared so much value with us. Thank you for all the tips and information. Do you think you could conclude by just sharing maybe your top 3 tips for like brand new Outschool teachers or those just starting their online teaching journey?
Definitely. So first of all, I know we already talked a little bit about market research,
Mhm.
but really just taking the time to find your own unique selling point as a teacher, like taking the time to reflect on your experience and your education, and just owning that on the platform, because that's really going to help you stand out on the Outschool market overall. Just finding
Mhm.
what's unique about you, and using that to market yourself to the parents. The second one, of course, the second one I would say is collaboration over competition. So just remembering that,
Mm.
the belief that there are enough students for everyone, so that you don't have to feel jealous of other teachers' successes. You can build them up and be happy for them, and also learn from them
Mhm.
and realize that if someone else is, successful on the platform, then you can have that as well. It doesn't mean
Yeah,
that that's not possible for you. So,
of
and then
course.
of
That's a
course,
good one.
thanks. And then my last one is just remembering your why. Like, why are you doing this? What
Mm.
is motivating you? For me, it's just the freedom of choice to, I had to let go of my professional purpose of being a music teacher for a while because I
Mhm.
wanted to have location independence and travel. And, my why is that I never have to give that up again. So just knowing what it is that's motivating you to be an online teacher, and always coming back to that whenever you're having doubts or whenever you're struggling through the process. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Those are 3 great tips. Thank you so much, Katie, for sharing all the great insight today on kind of your Outschool journey and then how you've been able to scale your own Outschool business through an organization. I really appreciate all the nice tips. If you want, or if people want to connect with you, where can they find you online?
Yeah, I would definitely go to my Instagram, which is my name. It's Katie Geddes _, and just follow along with me there. I'm there every day. So,
Thank you so much, Katie, for sharing all of that great information on how Outschool teachers can scale their own teaching business. Now, if you want to connect with Katie, I will have all of her links down below. I also recommend, if you want to work with her, either you are just starting with Outschool or you even want to start your own organization, she does provide coaching services for other online Outschool teachers. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you all in another video.